Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. All right, this is Jessie. How are y'all doing out there tonight? Man, oh man, what a week. I know you haven't seen this week from my point of view because I haven't been around to give you my point of view. All right, I have had friends who have had roads washed out by torrential rains and flooding in North Carolina. I have another friend who is in the process of leaving the United States Army, and it's been one snafu situation, normal, all fouled up after another. I have had various work crises, and not to mention the debates on Monday. So, overall, I've got to say, this week has been exhausting. Oh, yes. You have one very tired Jessie on the air tonight. Now, that doesn't mean I haven't been thinking about you guys. Trust me. I rarely stop thinking about you. It's just a question of sometimes getting over to the microphone and actually getting on the air, which, believe it or not, takes a little more than just flipping a couple of switches, especially if I want to bring you a good quality show, which I endeavor to do all of the time. All right. Now, reminder, let me pull up the schedule so I get this right, because it's been a week of it. Now, I do know tonight at 11 o'clock is Robinson and Wright. And I'm pulling up the schedule right now so I can remind you of what else is what's the show immediately following me, and I'd also like to know so I can promo. But I can also tell you that there is a new episode of Conversations in Science that will air on Monday. And there happens to also be a new episode of Jessie's Coffee Shop that will be airing on Sunday. So you've got Jessie's Coffee Shop Sunday, Conversations in Science on Monday. Right on my heels, we've got Behind Enemy Lines, and then at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, you've got Robinson and Wright shooting holes in political lies. So definitely tune in to hear the shots ring out at 11 o'clock tonight. I may tune in. Who knows? I'm not quite sure what I'm doing at 11 o'clock tonight. It has been one of those weeks. My email has not stopped. Yes, I have managed to check my email each and every day for you. I just have not made it on the air as much as I would have preferred this week. And you can't see my desk, which is probably a good thing, because I can barely see my desk. Yes, that is the stack of show prep I have for you. Actually, there's a little more to add to that stack. All right. So, we are going to kind of do a week in review without having had a week, but we're going to make it work, folks. We are going to make it work. I always believe in that. For those of you hiding under a rock, not paying any attention to anything that doesn't have the word U.S. elections, and or other people who are unaware, Shimon Peres, who was former Prime Minister of Israel and a major broker of peace in the Middle East, because of his leadership, we had a number of years of relative quiet over in the Middle East. He passed away. His funeral was earlier today. Shimon Peres, the former Israeli President and Prime Minister who passed away on Wednesday at 93, told the Jerusalem Post 2 years ago that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is ready to launch an attack on Iran, and I stopped him. Peres, speaking with the Post's Steve Lind and David Brin in a meeting at the Peres Center for Peace on Jaffa on August 24, 2014, apparently said he didn't want to go into details about his conversation with Netanyahu. He also stipulated that the Post could not report on the exchange until after his death. In 2011, Netanyahu and his defense minister at the time, Ehud Barak were actively building their case to attack Iran by arguing that the Islamic Republic was developing a nuclear bomb. By next spring at most, next summer by current enrichment rates, Iran will have finished the medium enrichment and moved on to the final stage, said Netanyahu to UN General Assembly in 2012. And no, I do not have that audio prepped for you. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for their first bomb. Israeli Defense Force and members of the Israel's defense establishment opposed Netanyahu's plans to strike Iran first. However, so did Perez. It is now clear to us that we cannot go alone, Perez said in an interview with an Israeli news outlet in 2012, referring to Netanyahu's desire to attack Iran. We can forestall it, therefore it is clear that we have to work together with America. There are questions of coordination and timing, but because of the nature of the danger, we are not alone, he added. A secret cable written by Israel's intelligence leaked that year further conveyed the dissent brewing within Netanyahu's own establishment. Iran was not performing any of the activity necessary to produce weapons, the cable read. The Obama administration intervened shortly after with Gabi Ashkenazi, the Israeli Lieutenant General, visited Washington and relayed Netanyahu's plans to attack Iran, which Ashkenazi opposed, with Perez's agreement, according to the Post. President Obama, who was at the beginning phase of his negotiating his landmark nuclear deal with Iran at the time, sent the vice chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral James Winfield, to Israel to pressure officials not to follow through with an attack. The move infuriated Netanyahu and contributed to a tense relationship that remains between the two leaders. Netanyahu was ultimately overruled, and if what Perez said is true, he apparently had more to do with deterring an attack on Iran than either Israel or the U.S. I have to believe that because, pure and simple fact, Perez was very much a man of peace and a man of the people. In 2010, Glick said, citing a report from an investigative journalism TV program, and they refuse, while pointedly not denying that the order had been given. Refused an order. You were ordered by the security cabinet, Glick retorted. You were not there. You don't know how it happened, said an indignant Dagan. There was never a decision about it, Ashkenazi said. The journalist, Glick wasn't there. How would she know? Perez raged. There are issues that cabinet, not in the media. He was one of the key players in that drama, which played out between the summer of 2009 and the summer of 2011. Netanyahu and Defense Minister Ehud Barak were pushing ahead with their plans to attack Iran, while the IDF, headed by Ashkenazi and the heads of the other defense establishments, opposed the move. Ashkenazi and Dagan had the support of none other than the president at the time, Perez, who joined their efforts to thwart the attack. Was it in fact Perez? Was Perez in fact the architect of Israel's nuclear nuclear program, who ultimately foiled an attack on Iran's nuclear sites? He thought so, although he didn't say how he did it. Like I said, Perez is one of those people that will definitely be missed on this planet. He was always a very strong leader, very much pro-Israel. However, he never wanted Israel to appear foolish on a world stage. Alright. So, Prime Minister Shimon Peres will be greatly missed. Now, while we are discussing Iran and Israel and all that fun stuff, boy oh boy do I have another one for you. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif poses to UN Secretary of State with Secretary of State Kerry at the UN. Another troubling secret side deal tied to President Obama's disastrous Iran nuclear pact has now come to light. At this point, Obama has dropped more shoes than Imelda Marcos. No kidding, folks. Every time you turn around, there's another shoe dropping out of this nuclear deal. I swear, it's a nuclear deal on paper, but every clause probably has a secret side deal. Alright, the Wall Street Journal, as we all know, reported that the ransom for the U.S. hostages Iran leased in January went beyond the $1.7 billion cash payment. Washington also agreed to immediately lift UN sanctions on two major Tehran banks. What makes this especially worrisome is that the banks, Bank Sepah and Bank Sepah International, were under sanctions for financing Iran's ballistic missile program, and those penalties were to remain in force until 2023. Team Obama said Washington secretly agreed to lift the sanctions as a gesture of good faith because Iran had been complying with the nuclear deal, but we've since learned that Iran is only in compliance because of a series of secret technical U.S. concessions, without which Tehran would have never met the deadline for sanctions relief. Basically, if it wasn't for the secret side deals, Iran would not be in compliance. Never mind its ballistic missile program, which violates the spirit of the agreement. It also came out that Obama agreed to lift sanctions on Air Iran imposed for ferrying weapons and supplies for the Revolutionary Guard. Yet another side deal that relaxes key restrictions on Tehran's nuclear program in a decade rather than the original 15 years. Not to mention, Iran was given the right to self-inspect its Parchin military base where nuclear detonators were built. Oh yeah, Iran gets to self-inspect one of the most likely places we're going to find a nuclear weapon. None of these events were disclosed by the White House. By the way, reporters had to dig them up. Senator John McCain is right when he says the nuke deal grows more dangerous each day, and the president is treating the American people like fools, even as he seems to be getting played by Tehran. I mean, come on, folks. How many holes does it take before the nuclear deal doesn't exist anymore? I'm willing to bet it already is gone. I'm willing to bet it's not worth the piece of paper it's printed on. We allow them to self-inspect the place where we are most likely to find a nuclear weapon. We allow them to export and maintain control over heavy water. We give them cash so they can finance more operations. And then, oh, by the way, there's a secret side deal so that their banks can begin normal operations on the international stage again, earlier than what was announced to the public. This deal isn't worth the paper out of my printer, never mind whatever paper it was actually printed on. This deal has more holes than good quality Swiss cheese, and I happen to like cheese. While we are on the topic of Iran, German minister heads to Iran, business ties still limited. German economy minister Sigmar Gabriel heads to Iran next week with a plane full of industrial executives keen to rebuild trade ties, but remaining U.S. sanctions and political concerns are holding back a hope for business boom. Gabriel says a German-Iranian business commission will meet for the first time in 15 years and forecasts concrete business deals will be announced. But he's also said Tehran must accept Israel's right to exist and stop military support for Syria's President Bashar al-Assad in order to normalize ties. He is making his second visit to Tehran since the Islamic Republic reached a deal with the world powers in July of last year to lift economic sanctions imposed on Iran over its nuclear program, in return for a voluntary curb on its nuclear activities. I mean, come on. For any of you who are unaware, Iran has been evading sanctions for decades and will continue to do so. There is a book out by the author's name as listed on the book is called Reza Khalili. In this book, Reza explains how Iran has evaded sanctions for decades. How Iran has managed to get stuff it needs into the country to build nuclear weapons. Now, industrial giant Siemens AG and automaker Daimler will be among the first German firms to benefit from opportunities in Iran, but they are proceeding carefully and only after legal reviews. Because we do still have a few sanctions on them. Despite the side deals, despite everything, there are still a few sanctions. And Gabriel is quoted as saying, economic cooperation won't perform miracles, but it can open up countries and stimulate societal change. And Gabriel, who also happens to lead the Social Democrats, Junior Social Democrats. Chancellor Angela Merkel's Christian Democrats, anxious about managing ties with two fierce Iran foes, Saudi Arabia and Israel, oppose a state visit at the current time. Rolling out the red carpet for Rouhani could be misunderstood as a signal that Iran has already accepted partner in the world community. That Iran is already an accepted partner in the world community. Apologize for that. I've got to untwist my tongue when we take a commercial break. And this quote is from Jürgen Hart, foreign policy spokesman for Merkel's Christian Democrats. Hart said he expected Gabriel to hammer home Germany's concerns about Iran's support for Assad's terror regime in Syria, itself unspeakable, and is filled with anti-Israel rhetoric and human rights abuses. Alrighty, folks. My, oh my, where has the time gone? We are already at the bottom of the hour. And yes, I will acknowledge I am a few minutes late getting started here, folks, but we are going to go ahead and as soon as I can get it queued up, we are going to take that commercial break. Because I hate to say this, but your host tonight is worn thin. I have had a week of putting out fires. I need a fireman's hat this week, not a microphone. And I will tell you that last night's show did not happen. Because, very simple reason, I had no electricity. And it's very hard to do a show for you folks when I have no electricity. Why did I not throw one together for today? Because I went from one crisis to another Alright, now we are going to take that commercial break and I will see you on the other side.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino. And how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
All right. Thank you for holding in there while I paid those bills. Got to keep those advertisers happy. And a special shout out to Dr. Judy L. Moore from Black Wolf Editorial. She does such a fantastic job. All right. I have one more story on Iran. And then we are moving on. The world's top female chess players have reacted with horror after being told they must compete at next year's World Championship wearing a hijab. For those of you who are unaware, a hijab is a headscarf that covers a woman's hair. Within hours of Iran being revealed as its host country, the prestigious event was plunged into crisis. As it emerged, players taking part face arrest if they don't cover up. In response, grandmasters lined up to say they would boycott the 64-player knockout and the accused games scandal hit governing body FIDE of failing to stand up for women's rights. FIDE's Commission on Women's Chess, meanwhile, called on participants to respect cultural differences and accept the regulations. Hijabs have been mandatory in Iran for women since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. And the law is strictly enforced by the country's morality police. Yes, I did say morality and police in the same sentence. Any woman found not wearing one in public faces arrest, a fine, or public admonishment. However, players claim by awarding the event to Iran, FIDE is turning a blind eye to sexual discrimination. Nazi one of the U.S. women's chess champion also raised concern about players' safety in the Islamic Republic. She said it is absolutely unacceptable to host one of the world's most important women's tournaments in a venue where to this day women are forced to cover up with a hijab. I understand respect cultural differences, but failing to comply can lead to imprisonment, and women's rights are severely restricted in general. It does not feel safe for women from around the world to play here. Said, I'm honored and proud to have qualified to represent the United States in the Women's World Championship. But if the situation remains unchanged, I will most certainly not participate in this event. The U.S. Department of State has issued a warning about traveling to Iran, saying that citizens risk being unjustly imprisoned or kidnapped because of their nationality. Former Pan American champion Carla Harita from Ecuador added, no institution, no government, nor a Women's World Chess Championship should force a woman to wear or to take out a hijab. That violates all what sport means. Sport should be free of discrimination by sex, religion, and sexual orientation. The obligation to use a hijab is one issue. Another one is that women can't share a room with a male if she's not married to him. So the question remains, what would happen if women chess players want to share a room with a male coach, or if women players want to prepare for the game by visiting the coach's room? FIDE held a smaller Grand Prix event in Iran earlier this year where female players were forced to wear the hijab. The Telegraph understands several players were left angry about having to use the headscarf. Nigel Short, the British former world title contender, said there are people from all sorts of backgrounds going to this. There will be atheists, Christians, all sorts of people. If you are deeply Christian, why would you want to wear a symbol of Islamic oppression of women? Susan Polgar, the Hungarian-born American chess master and chair of FIDE's Commission for Women's Chess, responded by defending the Federation, saying women should respect cultural differences. She said, I have traveled to nearly 60 countries, and when I have visited different places with different cultures, I like to show my respect by dressing up in their traditional style of clothing. No one asked me to do it, I just do it out of respect. I personally would have no issue with wearing a headscarf, as long as it is the same to all players. I believe the organizers provide beautiful choices for past participants of the Women's Grand Prix. I cannot speak on behalf of others, but my personal conversations with various players in the past, they've had no real issue with it. If any player has a problem with it, he can and should voice our opinion to the Commission for World's Chess or FIDE, and we can address it at our next meeting. FIDE is already reeling after its president, the eccentric multimillionaire Kyrgyzstan was placed on U.S. sanctions for alleged business dealings with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Earlier this month, a planned motion to impeach the president of the chess organization was thrown out by FIDE's General Assembly at a meeting in Baku. Alright, there has been no response to reporters that have attempted to reach out for clarification on this issue. Alright. Now we move on to my second favorite country to pick on, just because they tend to make news that does not get reported readily inside this country. North Korea may be one step closer to a missile launch. A U.S. website that monitors North Korea's weapons development said the isolated nation may be building a new submarine for launching missiles. The website 38 North says commercial satellite imagery strongly suggests a naval construction program is underway at the Singpo South shipyard where North Korea has built most of its submarines. International concern over the North's naval capabilities has intensified since it successfully tested a submarine-launched missile in August. Development of that capability would add a weapon that is harder to detect before launch. In its analysis Friday, 38 North said that a large circular component seen in imagery suggests North Korea could be building a submarine even larger than its current experimental vessel that is being developed for missile launches. However, the evidence is still at this time inconclusive. Yeah, I think they're building it. All right. And there was a North Korean soldier that walked across the DMZ to defect, and this is very rare. Most reach South Korea by traveling to China. In addition, there's been sanctions against a Chinese company and some of its executives with money laundering and conspiracy to evade sanctions. It is rare for North Korean defectors to walk across the mine-riddled border, which is guarded by tens of thousands of soldiers on both sides. North Korea's army has warned that any nuclear warheads fired at Seoul, South Korea, would completely reduce Seoul to ashes. This month it carried out its fifth and largest blast in what is seen as counter allegedly hostile actions by the United States and South Korea, which North Korea sees as the United States' puppet. Military officials have said they hope to have that in place by the end of next year. South Korea has precision target facilities in major areas as well as eliminate... Hang on. This article did not print right. Give me just one moment. Military officials have said they hope to have that in place by the end of next year. South Korea has precision ability to target facilities in major areas as well as eliminate North Korean leadership. As a regional neighbor and fellow communist regime, China has a certain rapport with North Korea. So, like I said, we have had another defection from North Korea. Alright. THAAD. Remember, terminal high. I think it's altitude aerial defense. Alright. Terminal high altitude area defense system. Alright. An 18-hole golf course in the mountains above southeastern farming area will be the new home for an advanced U.S. anti-missile battery aimed at countering the growing threat from north and south from the north. The South Korean military announced this on Friday. The decision followed months of protest over the original plans to deploy THAAD terminal high-altitude area defense system at an artillery base in the Sonju region. The new location at the Lot Sky Hill Country Club is in the same area but higher and more remote. The Ministry of National Defense said it plans to obtain the golf club from the Lot Group, one of South Korea's biggest conglomerates, also after considering two other candidates. It said the country club turned out to be the best qualified. It was selected as the final site for THAAD. Therefore, this says MND, and I'm looking for what MND stands for, will make every effort to install the THAAD system within the next year in order to better defend national security and people's lives from tensions escalating in the North Korean nuclear threat and its missile tests and launches. Washington and Seoul reached the agreement in July to deploy THAAD to work in combination with Patriot missiles and other weapons to defend the South against North Korea's massive arsenal. Tensions have spiked as the communist country has conducted two nuclear tests and launched several missiles in the sea off the peninsula's coast earlier this year. Alright, my oh my, where has the time gone? Now, I know you guys get tired of hearing me talk, so I got a little news clip about Aleppo. We're going to talk about that. And then I did find a fun story for the end.
This evening, 275,000 civilians are under attack, according to the United Nations. They're besieged in eastern Aleppo, which rebelled against the Syrian dictatorship more than 5 years ago. Russian and Syrian warplanes are trying to finish them off. Today, rescue workers pulled a child from a collapsed building. The miracle and the exhaustion were overwhelming. One of the most experienced reporters on the Syrian war is our Elizabeth Palmer.
For nearly 2 weeks, it's been like this. Russian and Syrian warplanes and artillery pounding eastern Aleppo.
Allahu Akbar!
They're targeting Islamic fighters who control much of this side of the city. At least, that's what the Russians and the Syrians say. But can their aim really be this bad? One after another, civilian targets have been hit. A bakery, the vat of dough still rising. People's homes. And two of East Aleppo's remaining hospitals, which has left doctors utterly overwhelmed. Rarely have conditions been this bad, says Dr. Rick Brennan of the World Health Organization.
Children and other civilians are being treated on the floor in corridors. There aren't enough intensive care beds. 4 children died in the last few days because the intensive care unit in one of the hospitals was full.
In the last 48 hours, there's been some ground fighting, as Iraqi and Iranian militias have joined Assad's depleted army. But there's no reason to think they're going to retake eastern Aleppo anytime soon, which simply puts terrified civilians trapped in the city in the line of even more fire. The bombing this week, Scott, does look like a deliberate campaign of terror to force civilians to flee. The United Nations certainly didn't pull its punches. It called it a war crime.
Elizabeth Palmer in our London newsroom tonight. Liz, thank you.
All right. Now, for those of you just tuning in, all right. Russian government airstrikes have killed more than 9,000. This is according to an activist group, and I would believe those numbers. Assuming they're talking an aggregated total, not a one airstrike thing. All right. A year of Russian airstrikes on areas outside government control of Syria have killed more than 9,000 people. It has also displaced more than tens of thousands and caused widespread destruction, an opposition monitoring group said on Friday. On September 30th last year, Russia began an air campaign backing the ground forces of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, turning the balance of power in his favor in many areas, including the northern province of Aleppo and the suburbs of the capital, Damascus. Opposition activists have blamed Russia for most of the recent airstrikes against rebel-held neighborhoods of East Aleppo City that have killed more than 320 civilians in the past 2 weeks and demolished many buildings. The anniversary came as violence in different parts of Syria claimed more lives Friday, mainly in Aleppo, where at least 12 people were killed and dozens more were wounded. Russian and Syrian warplanes and artillery pounding eastern Aleppo, targeting Islamic fighters who control much of this side of the city. At least that's what the Russians and Syrians say. So, they're trying to stop, quote, terrorism, so they take out a bakery? I mean, really? I am just skimming through this article to see if there's anything else noteworthy in this article to mention to you. My show prep, I will admit, tonight was a little on the light side. A video posted on the opposition Sham News Network described Russia's military operations in Syria as a year of crimes. It said that after a year of airstrikes, Russia has not been able to defeat the insurgents. Russia continues to blame the U.S. government and the U.S.-backed insurgents for the collapse of a ceasefire earlier this month after only 1 week. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry in a phone call Friday that Washington must force the factions it supports to split from the Fatah al-Sham front, according to Lavrov's office. The front is already deeply intertwined with multiple other factions regarded by Washington as moderates. The State Department has threatened to end all diplomatic discussions with Moscow on Syria if the assault on Aleppo continues. On Friday, State Department spokesman Mark Toner told reporters that the threat remains on the table. We're on the verge because we have not yet seen them take the type of actions we're looking for them to take, Toner said. This is on life support. Alright, so it's unclear how much longer we will have anyone on the ground in Syria. At least insofar as civilians and diplomats. Like I said, it's been quite the week, and I apologize if I sound exhausted. Guess what? It ain't an act, folks. Your host is plumb tuckered out. Alright. In the No One Is Perfect category, White House on Friday corrected a press release on Barack Obama's remarks at late Israeli President/Prime Minister Shimon Peres's funeral to clarify their location. The original version of the remarks identified the location as Jerusalem / Israel. Now, the U.S. policy on Jerusalem is controversial. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump recently promised Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, if he's elected, the U.S. will recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. What the revised version shows is just the word Jerusalem. The word Israel has been removed. And I have one final story on the That's Neat category. Robert Borba works at a ranch outside Eagle Point, Oregon, but he recently gained notoriety not for his prowess in the cow corrals, but because of what he did among the cart corrals of a Walmart parking lot. This past June, Robert said he went over to Walmart looking for some dog food, and on the way out he heard a woman screaming, "Stop him, stop him, he stole my bike, he stole my bike." And Robert started looking around, and all of a sudden this guy goes whizzing by him on a bicycle. As security cameras show, there was no way to catch him on foot, so the cowboy did what cowboys do. He saddled up to save the day, armed with little more than a lasso. Couple of swings and then I just threw it at him, just like I would a steer, Robert said. He's like, what are you... Alright. Robert called 911 himself, describing to the incredulous operator how he was able to detain the suspect. "We got a guy who just stole a bike here at Walmart. I roped him and tied him to a tree. I got him roped from a horse and he's tied to a tree." It was repeated after the 911 operator went, "What?" The cavalry arrived moments later, led by Eagle Point officer Chris Adams. I looked up from the horse and there was a rope connected to the ankle of a gentleman on the ground holding onto a tree. Oh yes, he was on the horse and all. I told the cop, I said, "Man, you guys ought to pick up a rope and throw away that gun. You might have better luck with it." He started laughing. The officer laughed. He said taking actions to stop a thief was just the right thing to do. If it was my wife or my little girl, I would hope somebody would help her out if I wasn't around, he said. Alright. Now, couple little programming notes. I am uncertain as to the status of Saturday Slowdown. There will be a new Jessie's Coffee Shop on Sunday and Conversations in Science on Monday. And on that note, folks, you know what's coming. See if I can pull it together for just a couple seconds. I'm out of here!